All right, mateys. Hey, today we're going to talk a little bit about cruising and making money flying a drone. Now, I've got some good news with a however, some more good news, and maybe not such good news. Well, let's start off with the good news. Well, the FAA, they're here to help, and their job, part of their mission is to keep the airways safe. Well, that's no small feat with these small drones. But they do realize drones are here to stay and they have a valuable use. So they've come up with a system, it's called the FAA 333 exemptions. Now anybody can get that. It's easy to fill out the paperwork and file for it. It's a long process. It takes a long time to get it. But the however here is, if you want to fly this, you're going to have to be licensed to fly this. So you need one of these. That's the however. The other good news is you can file your FAA 333 exemption yourself at no charge. Takes a little bit of time. You got to do a little bit of research. Now there are law firms and other consulting companies out there that'll help you file it for $2,000 to $4,000 when you can file it for yourself. Now, just a word of caution too. I see companies out there offering a drone pilot license. Guys, there's no government agency that recognizes a drone pilot license, at least not at this time. You might get a certificate of completion, but the FAA is not going to recognize a drone pilot license. The only thing they recognize is this. So that's another part of the however. Now the other good news is a lot of misinformation out there. How do you keep up and know what is right? Well, AOPA, Airplane Owners and Pilot Association, has been around for years as advocates for general aviation. They've got a special team that works with the drone controversies. I'm going to put a link in the bottom here that you can click that on and read some of the articles that they're publishing to kind of keep you informed of what's going on. I mean, the FAA is changing all the time. This video might be outdated by spring. Hopefully it will be, and the process will be a little bit easier. Now, part of the FAA 333 exemption is you have to be able to communicate with the tower and air traffic. Now here's the other good news. Yaesu makes a handheld airband VHF radio, very inexpensive. Now this thing is going to do a lot more than what you're going to need to for flying the drone. This will pick up a VOR, it has an ILS with a glide slope, and you can scan several different channels. The communication part of that is a little beyond the scope of this particular video. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Use landing and departing on right 33 right. Advise controller on initial contact to have information uniform.
But it is important to be able to communicate with the tower. And this thing, you guys out on the boat, you hear these guys talking on the VHF like it's some kind of a CV. Hey, this is even more critical. You have lives at stake here. There's a specific way to communicate, and you need to know that. Even the phonetic alphabet. It's not Apple, it's Alpha. It's not Bob. You got to learn to use this properly. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later video. All right, we've all heard the stories of idiots flying around, going so high that they're almost causing an airplane wreck or some kind of a crash. And that's why the FAA is stepping in, that if you're going to be in control of this, you've got to know what you're doing. And for the most part, if you stay under 400 feet, you're outside the FAA airspace or safe airspace. That's one of the other things that you need to know is your airspaces, especially if you're within 5 miles of an airport. How do you properly communicate so that you don't have a problem? So anyway, there's so many of us out there trying to do this. Some of these guys are charging virtually nothing, and all they need to do is crash this once, and they're on the wrong side of the profit margin. Now, it's more than just videoing marinas and boats coming and going, you know, B&Bs, landscaping. All of that is very nice to do. You just have to be sensible about doing it. All right, now the other part about doing this business is it's very weather sensitive. Now, I happen to be inside a hangar today, thank goodness, because it's 20-mile-an-hour winds out there. You're not going to fly this thing in that kind of wind. Plus, it's cloudy. You're not going to get good video. So your window of opportunity to do good aerial videos is very limited. Now, you should also carry at least $500,000 of liability if this thing crashes into somebody or crashes into somebody's house or their car. And that insurance isn't cheap. So there's a number of things to consider when you're thinking about doing this to make a living. As for me, it's only part of a plan. It's not the entire plan. Well, stay tuned. We'll talk some more about doing this. And until next time, happy and safe boating to you, your family, and friends. And safe flying, too.